We thought escaping the tunnel meant we were safe. We were wrong. The things inside the mirrors had never been trying to get out. They had already left. We were simply the last people to realize it. When we reached the surface, everything looked normal. Cars moved through intersections. Traffic lights worked. People walked their dogs. Children rode bicycles. For one brief moment, I thought we'd imagined everything. The detective even laughed. A nervous laugh. The kind people make when they're trying to convince themselves they're alive. Then, I noticed the people. Every person we passed stopped walking. Not all at once. One after another. A woman carrying groceries. A mailman. A teenager wearing headphones. They all turned and looked directly at us. Nobody said anything. They just smiled. Exactly the same smile. It wasn't a happy smile. It wasn't friendly. It was identical. The same angle, the same expression, the same empty eyes, as if they'd practiced it. The detective quietly whispered, "Don't make eye contact." So we kept walking, slowly, trying to act normal. But no matter which street we turned onto, they were there, watching, smiling, waiting. We ducked into a small convenience store. The cashier greeted us. His voice sounded perfectly normal, but he never blinked. Not once. While the detective distracted him, I looked toward the security monitor above the counter. That's when I saw it. The camera showed us entering the store. Then, 3 seconds later, it showed me entering again. The second me smiled at the camera. The real me wasn't smiling. I looked behind me. There was no one there. When I looked back at the monitor, the second me was gone. The detective's radio suddenly crackled. Static. Then a voice. "We've lost every checkpoint." Another burst of static. They're everywhere. More static. Then, "If you can still recognize yourself, do not go home." The transmission ended. Outside the store, people had begun gathering. Dozens of them, standing perfectly still, looking through the windows, smiling. None of them tried to come inside. They didn't have to. It felt like they already knew exactly where we were going next. I knew the radio was right. I shouldn't have gone home. Every instinct told me to keep driving, to leave the city, maybe even leave the country. But my sister was still there. At least, I hope she was. The detective didn't try to stop me. He simply looked at the address in my hands, then quietly said, "If she answers the door, ask her something only your real sister would know." I asked him why. He looked away. "Because if she answers too quickly, don't let her in." I didn't ask what he meant. Deep down, I already knew. The front door was already open. I never left it unlocked. Neither did my mother. The house was silent. No television. No footsteps. No voices. Just silence. I slowly stepped inside. Everything was exactly where I remembered. My mother's glasses were still on the kitchen table. A cup of coffee sat beside them, cold, untouched. It looked as if someone had simply paused the entire house. Then I heard breathing, very slow, very calm. It was coming from the dining room. I rounded the corner and froze. My mother was sitting at the table, my sister beside her. Neither of them moved. Neither of them looked at me. They were both facing the large mirror hanging on the wall. The same mirror my father had bought years ago. The blanket that used to cover it was gone. Neither of them blinked. Neither of them spoke. They simply stared. I slowly looked toward the mirror. It wasn't reflecting the room. It wasn't reflecting us at all. Instead, it showed the living room, completely empty, covered in dust. The walls were cracked. Plants had grown through the floor. It looked abandoned, as if decades had passed. Then, someone walked into the reflection. It was me, older, thinner, covered in blood. He looked straight through the glass, straight at me, and slowly shook his head. No, not once, twice. Then he mouthed 4 words. "You're too early." My sister suddenly spoke, without taking her eyes off the mirror. "You weren't supposed to come home." My heart nearly stopped. I stepped toward her. She slowly turned her head, smiled. It wasn't her smile. It was the same smile I'd seen all over the city. Then she quietly asked, "Do you want to see tomorrow?" The surface of the mirror began rippling, like dark water. And from somewhere deep inside it, I heard hundreds of voices, all whispering the exact same sentence. "There's still room for one more." I couldn't move. The voices inside the mirror weren't screaming anymore. They were waiting. Hundreds of faces slowly emerged beneath the surface. Men, women, children, all of them staring at me. None of them looked frightened. They looked tired. One by one, they raised their hands, not to grab me, to warn me. Then the older version of myself appeared again. He placed one hand against the inside of the glass. His lips moved. This time, I understood him. He wasn't saying, "Don't come." He was saying, "Don't let them replace you." Behind me, the detective quietly spoke. "They're gone." I turned. He wasn't looking at the mirror. He was looking at my mother and my sister. His hands were trembling. "I've seen this before. They're not your family anymore." Before I could answer, my mother finally stood up. Slowly, calmly. She smiled. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. "We've been waiting for you." Not, "I've been waiting." We've. As if she wasn't speaking for herself, but for all of them. The detective fired. The bullet never reached the mirror. It slowed, stopped in midair, then quietly fell to the floor. The room became impossibly silent. Then, the mirror cracked. Not like glass, like ice breaking across a frozen lake. Long black fractures spread in every direction. The surface collapsed inward, not outward, as if the room itself had opened. Darkness poured through the opening, and from inside, they began walking out. Not monster, not demons. People. Perfectly ordinary people. Smiling. Looking around the room, as if they'd finally come home. The official reports claimed the emergency had ended. The broadcasts stopped. The missing person investigations were quietly closed. Television stations returned to normal programming. Life appeared normal again. But if you paid attention, little things didn't make sense anymore. Friends forgot memories they should have shared. Parents told childhood stories that never happened. Old family photographs changed. Faces appeared where no one remembered standing, and nobody questioned it. Because to everyone else, it had always been that way. A few weeks later, another emergency broadcast interrupted every television. The screen stayed black. No music, no logo, just one sentence. "The mirror incident has been successfully contained." For a moment, I almost believed it. Then, the text disappeared. New words slowly faded onto the screen, words that shouldn't have existed. Correction. A long pause. Then, containment failed. The television turned off by itself. I looked toward the mirror beside the screen. For just a second, my reflection smiled. I didn't. Then it slowly raised one finger, placed it against its lips, and whispered, "Don't tell them you noticed." The lights went out, and that was the last official broadcast anyone ever saw.